Hello and welcome to a SuperHarshm super review of Tropico 5. Tropico 5 is a Caribbean island city simulator and political manager. Developed by Haemimont Games and published by Calypso Media, Tropico 5 is the newest entry in the long-running series. Does Tropico 5 live up to its hype as an in-depth political simulator, or does it fail to live up to even the previous entries in its own series? Let's find out. Set in the beautiful Caribbean, Tropico 5 offers a unique campaign game mode, and unlike many other strategy games, the missions allow for plenty of freedom. Most other games are very restrictive when it comes to the campaign. However, in Tropico 5, they only provide some objectives and light restrictions, which allow the player to still create their island paradise however they want. Tropico 5 is all about creating the kind of island you want. Do you want to rule Tropico with an iron fist and strip the island of its minerals? Go right ahead. Want to have mandatory elections and full voting rights? Well, good on you, you can do that. Communist paradise? Go right ahead, comrade. Tourist heaven? That's in there. Your island politics are all up to you, as is your island's economy. You could use nothing but different kinds of plantations the entire game if you want, but your best option is to keep evolving your economy. And make sure not to build factories unless you have the raw materials on hand, or at least have enough money to import them. You can't run a cigar factory without tobacco. You can't run a cloth factory without cotton and wool. In Tropico, all the different parts of your economy has to work with all the other parts. Tropico 5 has a fairly in-depth almanac for examining all the facets of your people and island. Here you can check how you were viewed by your people, the happiness of your people, the economy, income, expenses, things like that. The almanac in 5 is a bit simpler than the one in 4, but it's a lot easier to use and understand. On your island, you have to make sure your people are housed, fed, healed, and given jobs. If you never build any homes for them, you're going to start seeing shacks and shanty towns all over your island. Your people will die without proper medical care and without an adequate supply of food. If you don't provide the basic needs of your people, they'll want to remove you from office, either through democracy or rebellion. You have control over all your island's buildings, from different kinds of houses to entertainment, tourism, industry. All these buildings are in your hands.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
New games of Tropico 5 usually start you off in the colonial period. Here you have a colonial mandate which is controlled by the crown. If you refuse to give the crown what it wants, when it wants, then your mandate will slowly run out of time until it's game over. To prevent that from happening and to progress to the next era, you need to declare independence. This will accelerate you to the World Wars. Tropico 5 goes through several time periods, eventually spanning to the near future. New eras bring changes to global politics and economy while providing more advanced buildings and technology. Technology is a new feature in the Tropico series. Unfortunately, every game of Tropico 5 has the exact same tech tree. There is never any variation and you progress through the tree almost the same way every time. A tech tree like this really only serves to hold the player back from certain buildings. It's more of a chore meant to delay the player instead of any real sense of progression. The only positive of the tech tree is the advisor Penultimo, who jokes about pretty much everything. Some of his jokes fall flat, but the game's humor is usually enough to make me laugh.
We found a sickle. Now we have something that goes perfectly with our hammers. This will boost production sky high. I can almost see the glorious future.
With great visuals and wonderful Latin music, you can't help but smile while playing Tropico 5. The graphics are fun to look at and the island itself starts off beautiful. The best word to describe Tropico 5 might be happy. The game's humor, music, and charm are enough to keep you interested for quite a while. Combat has always been a part of Tropico, but it's been changed a bit in 5. Before, the only combat was between rebels and your army, but now pirate invasions, your revolution, the world wars, and more are possible. There are many new military units such as tanks and elite soldiers. The visuals of combat are pretty simple, and combat itself could be pretty easy. All you really have to do is mass your military buildings and guard towers by your docks, and you're in the clear. Combat isn't exactly amazing in 5, and it certainly isn't one of the main features, but it's a nice improvement over 4. Mentioning Tropico 4 leads me into one of the biggest problems Tropico 5 faces, however. Other than some things like combat and the timeline, Tropico 5 isn't really that much of an improvement over 4. Overall, you have less freedom to create your own island because of the tech tree and eras. In Tropico 4, you had the ability to get started in almost any industry on day 1. However, in 5, you have to start with farming and ranching. Tourism isn't even an option until way late in the game, and at that point your economy should already be stable enough for you to just ignore tourism anyway. Politics have been simplified greatly. Before, there were 8 factions spanning all the different ideologies of your people, and now you only have to deal with 2 or so at a time. You can mostly play the game however you want, and as long as you do occasional missions for them, they'll be happy no matter what. This is also the first Tropico game to include multiplayer. Unfortunately, it took me a long time to actually get into a game, and when I finally did, it just crashed. Matchmaking and the server browser seem to be somewhat broken. In any case, multiplayer has a co-op and competitive game mode. In both modes, the players start off in different sections of the island where they're free to create their own cities. I kept trying to get into more multiplayer matches, and whenever I actually could find someone to play with and the game loaded, they usually disconnected after about 5 minutes. The only time I played multiplayer for a moderate amount of time was fun, but it just wasn't worth the hassle. It's about time to give Tropico 5 a final score. Tropico 5 has a bit more to offer than earlier games in the series, but many of the basic features have been dumbed down or have just gotten worse. The new timeline is a great feature though. Instead of a 50 or 60 year timeline, now you can play for about 100. Revamped combat is a needed improvement, but I believe they could have gone much further with it. City planning is still very smooth. The only problem is now you have less freedom in 5. In the past, you could start doing anything almost immediately, but now you're forced to go through the eras and progress down the mostly pointless tech tree. Tropico 5's economy management is still very good, however, and all the buildings that rely on each other seem to work very smoothly. There are many different industries to get into, which is great, but as I said, the game restricts when you can get into them. Multiplayer seems like a fun addition, but the broken server lobby is very disappointing. The game is still bright and beautiful, however, and watching your island grow is an absolute joy. With all that in mind, I give Tropico 5 a final score of 6 out of 10. It's an above average game. The game is great in areas like the improved city management and economy, but many staple features of the series don't even live up to Tropico 4. With restrictive gameplay and a tech tree that really only serves to slow down the player, Tropico 5 loses a bit of that feeling of freedom that you get in previous games. However, if you're new to the Tropico series, 5 may be a fantastic place to start. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that like button. It's a big help. And if you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe to my channel. Leave a comment down below with what games you think I should review, too. As always, this is SuperHarshm. I'll see y'all next time.